What's the crack, Michael Mejia?
How you feeling?
Oh, my heart's pounding out through my chest. But I'm really, really, really happy to be here with you. And I really appreciate you joining me. To anybody who doesn't know Michael, I am absolutely not going to introduce you to him. I'm going to allow this man's energy to speak for itself, because he is one of the most remarkable humans in my world right now. And I am humbled to get to spend the next hour with him. And I am going to maximize the hour. And I want to get right down to business, if that's okay with you.
Yes, let's do it.
So, myself, yourself, many people in our circle go through things very similarly at the same time, same energy, same essence. And yesterday, you and I, even though we have our own friendship and connection, shared some similar posts back to back. And I was wondering if we could start there. I was wondering if you would be so kind as to share with anybody watching who hasn't seen your post, the one that you shared on the Poetry of Michael page, and just speak to that. If you wouldn't mind, would you share that? Would you read it?
Absolutely.
I think I'm about to go where you went with Gabrielle last week by watching Magic.
I'm just pulling it up. I think, but before I read it, I'm going to give a little bit of context, if that's okay.
Sure.
So, what I've been experiencing in my personal reality, my immediate external, and witnessing in the collective is this transition from what I would call karmic relationships into, and I'm going to use one of Saskia's terms because she wrote this beautifully months ago about stepping into the new paradigm. The forms that are coming together are experiencing a symbiosis of light, where the light within whatever forms are coming together, their lights are merging to create new timelines, new experiences, new realities. I think something that's vital and imperative in the understanding of what's going on is that leaving this old world and moving into a new world, not labeling it, both experiences are just as holy. They're just as sacred. And karmic relationships are just as sacred as moving into the new world, where we're experiencing, I guess loosely I'll say, the evolution of relationship, where now we're going to be coming together and experiencing symbiosis, and where light's going to start creating a new reality, which we can call love, right? But if just through my own personal lens, through my own experience, the karmic relationships, right? If we're experiencing it through the optics of the heart, are just as sacred, because the karmic relationships were designated for us to experience a movement into a new paradigm. So what I've just been recognizing within myself is watching everything disappear. And I talked about this to Gabriella. I'm witnessing everything disappear. And my experience is, as the inner merge continues to deepen, the outer reality is becoming no longer, and I've been talking about this a lot, not a reflection of bisected pain, where fractal aspects of my psyche through cultural, political, familial conditioning, or my emotional body through the fragmented aspects of pain in its various forms, whether it's a strained relationship with a mother, a sister, a father, a friend, ourselves, as all of those thoughts and conditioning are being neutralized. And as the emotional body finds balance, the essence is starting to emerge. What happened was yesterday morning, I closed my eyes because my heart had something to say. And you know very well, because this is your process, when our heart wants to speak, when our spirit wants to move through the heart, it's a feeling. There's an energy. There's an aliveness. So I asked the deepest aspect of myself, show me what this looks like. What does this look like? What are we experiencing collective? And in its purest, deepest, and truest form, what does this merging look like? And that's when a bunch of visuals flooded my mind, which is one of the ways the poetry writes itself. And so the visual was me walking like in the void of nothingness and seeing every dimension and every reality at once. And as I was walking, I saw everything that's been created in time, every fragmented aspect of myself in a myriad of forms, countless forms, numerous forms, which we can call worlds, universes, multiverses, right? People, but seeing it through the eye of creation, not through the limited perception of pain. And so as I saw it, once I see the vision, then all I have to do is call the words forward to capture what has been shown. And this is the poem that came forward. There is no longer any other. I see stars on the orb of grass as dew slides into a vaster field of green. The heart has bled. Wounds all over the psyche, bores inside of the body, now aperture points for prisms and rhythms. Unutterable love and iridescence. Every voice in my head has fled. Every story has turned into a ladder. Every set of eyes holds light. Every heart sings the song of the butterfly. And every mind a vast expression of the one finding itself over and over again. Faces have become worlds that have led me into ineffable spheres, the abyss of an endless night, the void of God, an ocean that touches the feet of eternity, and waves ravaging of ache, touching temporally and spatially, now seen through the eye of forever, through valleys and fields. All of the rain and all of the pain now fall from the sky as petals, angels celebrating the birth of the undying. Another voice shall echo the holy enduring of the immortal. Everything is music. Do not be afraid. Take my hand, for it is yours, and you are waiting for yourself.
Thank you. That was beautiful. What I love about the magic you create, and I'm never going to get tired of saying this to you, and I'm never going to probably stop saying this to you as long as I know you, is that I love that your words have the capacity to completely bypass the mind and go straight for the heart. And now more than ever, I think the world needs what you create, because you speak for people who can't find the words to describe exactly what they're going through. You know, there's so much power in them, and the energy that moves through each and every word, for me, shows me that it's okay for me to equally be right there in that with you, in my own experience. That what I go through myself, I'm not alone. And if I go through it and you go through it, it means everybody else goes through it. And I mean, excuse me, collectively, you know, we're in a place where, for so many people, our core wounds are gracing us with their presence, and not to put us through the mill anymore, but as you so beautifully described, to allow us to meet ourselves. You said at the end of that, take my hand. What way did you word that at the end, the very end?
Take my hand, for it is yours.
Yeah. Can I zone in on one particular piece,
Please,
of what you wrote? Because for me, this is what really stood out. And you wrote, every voice in my head has fled. Every story has turned into a ladder. Every set of eyes holds light. Every heart sings the song of the butterfly. Every mind a vast expression of the one, finding itself over and over again. That was like in neon lights when I read it.
Yeah.
And for me personally, as I clear the chaos from within my head, I give space in my body for it to do what it's supposed to do, which is be the recipient of this, to process how I feel. And in this case, via your words. I don't think there's one person who's tuned into this right now, either on the live or a replay, that can't resonate with exactly that. All of it. I'm zoning in on this specific part because this speaks to me personally, having gone through what I'm very, very freshly, I'm still integrating. So I'm showing up here today quite raw, to be completely honest. But it was like our stories were almost back to back. And I was going to ask, can you speak to those words, as in, what does that mean? What does that mean for you, for what you have experienced, without needing to share any of the personal story? Because as you so eloquently put in the poetry, it's not it's not about the story. It's about the experience that brings forward the pain, that brings forward the journey within, for us to reconnect with ourselves And
Yeah.
so the chaos brings the clarity. And I think there's so many people out there right now in their own chaos, because the mind is a powerful thing and it tells us so many, many things that aren't true. But when you're in it, let me tell you, it feels very real. So I was wondering if you could go there and just explore that with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love it. You're doing great. I know you get a little nervous, but you're amazing. So, first, I would start by saying that everything is true. But if you want to reach the deepest dimension of truth, then you have to fall beneath the pain. And so, as I saw the visuals coming in, it's our experiences are meant to create a ladder to the unseeable, not to imprison us. We're not meant to serve a life sentence drenched in our stories. And so the other thing I wanted to say about relationship is, in this movement of relationship can transform. So I've had all of the experiences with relationship where some relationships were solely karmic, where myself and the other both equally, for bilateral clarity and healing, called each other into our realities to clear aspects of ourselves that were preventing us from experiencing the deeper parts of ourselves. And then those relationships dissolve when we shift frequency. And now our realities are no longer in vibrational alignment. So there's no longer an exchange. I've had relationships where from the beginning, it was just a symbiosis, which would be like my sisters, my parents. And then I've had relationships that started karmically, but cascaded into the symbiosis of, two forms that have reached enough neutralization where there's no longer projection. Now there's just an inner awareness that guides each form. And now they're co-creating with themselves and each other. So, and people can come back and reappear. We can meet each other anew over and over again. I think it's so important to just, if inside of yourself enough awareness is expanded where you can see outside of your pain enough to realize when you're falling into creating another. And I'll quote Todd on this because it's something I say to myself often, especially as we move through this passage where we're experiencing the power of the eclipse. The eclipse brings the shadow forward. The light is in a holding period. We address the shadow. And once addressed, we experience expansion outside of the contraction that this portal's calling, right? But Todd said, and I keep saying this, like, to family, to friends, on lives, every time you other, or every time you're experiencing separation, you're the point. You're the point of separation. That's an eternal truth. And so if you feel like in any moment where you're labeling something outside of yourself, you're literally being called to move through a state of separation and have a conversation within yourself. And so when it says every light holds light and every heart sings the song of the butterfly, the wisdom of the poem, which is also teaching me, right?
Yeah.
The poem is saying that when you reach a state where pain is no longer the point of perception, where you're perceiving reality and where you're labeling your reality, when pain is no longer doing that, you would actually see light in everything, even the forms that aren't in attunement with their own inner essence. So they're not experiencing their light. But if you're fully activated and experiencing your light, you're going to see the light in everything, because you're going to actually see the perfection of every experience and see that at the very core, light is still governing that form. But maybe light is covering the form we could call unconscious, right? To create a ripple out, send out signals of triggers that then move into whatever external forms they're meant to, and create initiations, which will then bring inner evaluation. You'll move into healing, and then you'll experience expansion. So this one source is literally moving through everything and using everything equally, and loves everything equally, and doesn't look at the saints, the prophets, the mystics as greater than, say the forms that have been, deemed unredeemable. Everything is actually in a greater movement that pain and the conditioned mind cannot translate. It's out of our jurisdiction. So once we fall into the essence, so it's when the opening of the light enters your heart and your eyes, you're going to translate reality from a deeper dimension. So that was the experience with the poetry. And again, I would say, if you're falling into good or bad, better or worse, this person's more conscious than that person, I'm more conscious than you, so I'm better or greater, then you're actually still experiencing your own inner turmoil masked as spirit, consciousness, intelligence. And I'll say that I actually wrote this down. For some reason, I knew that this would go. But one of my favorite writers, his name's Krishnamurti, he said, the ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence. And the only word I would change there, just with my experience, would be, instead of highest form, I'd say deepest, because everything's being projected from inside out. So I think that the more we evolve back into who we really are, the essence of who we are, we go deeper, not higher, because higher denotes an experience outside of ourselves, when really this whole reality is an experience of us witnessing ourselves, And I am going to turn it back to you, because I also read your post and I asked you if I could ask you questions too. And your post and my post are dancing, because it's a roadmap for where we are uncovering aspects of ourselves that we haven't had access to. And so everything is really, truly a holy gift. And you wrote something that touched me, and I know it touched a lot of other people. So I think if you can read that and we can kind of dissect it and dance, I think that'd be pretty.
I mean, how do I follow what you just said without becoming completely encompassed in it? It's you put it beautifully. I heard you speak to the layers within the layers of pain, and I understand, because I've been there, that so often we focus on what is right in front of us when pain or suffering comes into our experience, that we deal with it like this, as if it's the only thing. When, if I can go from the opposite angle, I've understood over the last week that these experiences via people, situations, things, are the representation of a culmination of what is running within us. And the easiest thing in the world would be for me to focus on the one pain point and stay there. And if I stay there, I lose it all. I lose myself because I become consumed with the judgment of it, the perception of it, my attachment to it, my projection towards it, that I can't see that my pain has been gift wrapped and that the gold is within it. But we're so afraid to open the box because our history has shown us via our experiences or our deeply ingrained programs, but that there is nothing but suffering in there, and we're not going to touch that shit. Not now, not again. We can't possibly go there. And I did something, I am doing something now that I have never done. I am, in my own, from my own perception of myself, notorious for coming out swinging when I feel like I need to defend myself. Or if you got it wrong, or you're after getting the wrong version of me, you're getting me all wrong. I would come out swinging to try to make you see my point of view. Listen to what I'm trying to tell you. See it from my perspective. Feel it through my heart, hear it through my ears, when that is impossible. An impossible expectation to place on anybody. I am guilty of it. I'm guilty of doing it. I'm guilty of it being done to me. Now I'm in the most beautiful place where I can witness it. And so I'm trying very actively, very consciously, to not raise my voice, not to even open my mouth to speak, but to be still. To be still as I open the box and I see the gift within, to pick it up, to look all around it, and then equally to not to focus on it and to look back in the box and to see that there's more, and there's more, and there's more. If I have the awareness to listen to myself, minus the chaos, in that silent, still place, to what's in there, what's my body trying to communicate with me? When I pick up this, how does it feel within my body? What do I think? What emotions are coming up? Are they even mine?
Yeah.
Are they real? When I'm talking in conversations, situations, and in particular the zero pointing sessions, and I'm explaining the power of our programs that run deeply within us, I will say to a person, you, this current version of me speaking to me, can recall the exact thoughts, beliefs, feelings, emotions, and experiences of your 10-year-old self if you allow yourself to time travel. To just recall something that happened. And it can and has, for so many of us, the capacity to immobilize us in that moment, to the point where we're so focused on the one pain point in front of us that we never get to experience what you so beautifully described as the gift. When you go through those layers of realizing that it's you meeting you. And so I became silent, not really engaging in conversations with many people. I've been very sick for the last 2 weeks, and every morning I wake up thinking, I'll be feeling better tomorrow. No, my body is down. I'm down. I'm offline. And I'm glad. Because what it allowed me to do in that stillness is see beneath each layer. And that's what it took me to that place where I wrote the post, which was what I was doing was I was zero pointing for 2 days because my world imploded. And instead of me going, fuck this shit again, how am I here again? Why is this happening again? I just went, give me the goddamn box. I don't give a shit where this takes me. I'm looking in here, and I'm staying looking in here until I get to the bottom of this. And it's taken me to the most magical places of self-realization. Nothing outside of me, all within me.
Yes.
My understanding of why a specific experience has repeated. And beneath that, why the energy of it remains. And beneath that, my attachment to the essence and the energy, knowing that it's been created by me, for my highest growth and expansion, always from a place of unconditional love, even though I might have been kicking and screaming, signing up for this shit, going, what? I'm not going to ever agree to this. Are you for real? But here we are. And I realized after I found out I pinpointed via the process exactly where I embedded the program within me that allowed me to believe a specific thing was acceptable in my world. I went deeper again, which was the post that I shared yesterday. I know myself, I'm not great when it comes to being on the receiving end of love, as you well know. Here I go with my hood for comfort. And I don't care anymore. See this? I don't give a shit because this is what I need to do for me. I'm nervous talking about this because this is raw. And my voice keeps going, as you can hear. But maybe, just maybe, me going here will mean that somebody might not need to go as deep. And they'll recognize themselves in my words. And after that, that's a win for me. But I've known forever I'm not great at receiving love. I'll try and love the shit out of someone so that they can see how, see me and love me and accept me, because I wasn't doing it for myself. I was trying to forge this connection, with you, so that you'd see me and I'd feel it. I finally feel what it means to feel what connection looked like. And I was deluding myself because I was disconnected within. I was shit at taking compliments. When things would implode in my world, I would always think that it was me. I was the problem. And to be fair, I was. And this isn't from a place of me going, oh, it's my fault, my bad. But I am the creator of my experiences, and what I give my energy to grows. I just hadn't a clue that I couldn't see. I couldn't hear. I was operating with one hand behind my back on half power. And that's where this journey took me at the weekend. I zero pointed a list on my blocks to being on the receiving end of the love that I finally know that I am. My head's down. My head came down on its own. And this is what I wrote. And I wrote this like literally within 2 minutes of coming out of this process. Sorry. Not sorry. Today I zero pointed, quite possibly, the most important list I will ever look at. A culmination of the essence and energy of the following deep-seated core programs. I thought, believed, felt, lived, experienced, allowed, accepted that I am incapable of receiving love. I cannot accept love fully when given by another. I do not know what love looks like. Love is conditional. Love is a liar. Love equals suffering, equals loss, equals grief. I am unworthy of the experience of deep, unconditional love in relationship. To love is to be humiliated. I do not know what love feels like. Love is always temporary and always leaves. I chased this one down because, well, enough of this shit forever. No more, enough, it is done. 11 A5 pages, 242 negative attributes, 242 positive attributes, 484 programs running so deeply within me that I accepted them and allowed them to run as my norm, oblivious to their presence or the impact they have had on my entire world. Now I say this: I am open to receiving the love that I am. Let this love wash over me. Let it replenish me. Let it consume every cell in my body. Let it nurture me. Let it rejuvenate me. Let it enhance my very being. Let it liberate me. Let it fearlessly lead me home. Let it bless me. Let it empower me. Let it rebirth me. And I spent the entirety of yesterday evening in a state that I don't really have words for. You see, I didn't realize how bad, how distorted, how painful I had associated what it looked like to be on the receiving end of love in my world. And I've been doing this 0 pointing process for about 1.5 years now. And this took me to, it shocked the shit out of me, to be completely honest with you, Michael. I was horrified. I brought a core group of people from my past to mind and my present. And I asked myself, what does it look like to be on the receiving end of the love of? Mm. And I wrote it down. And organically, very naturally, scarily, easily, the negative attributes just flowed like this. The words I wrote were outrageous. I'm not going to lie. No. And I didn't know. And then I read them and I was like, no wonder when somebody said to me, Melissa, you know, you're an amazing person. I'm like, oh yeah, really? Or I couldn't take it in. And it's not because I didn't want to. Who doesn't want to be loved? Who doesn't, you know, to be accepted? But until I got to this place within myself where I could feel it within myself, could I witness what I had enabled? And that's through no fault of anybody outside of me. And I think that's where the correlation between the two posts was evident. You were witnessing your pain through your eyes, knowing that it was created by you, for you, not touching the wounds, not trying to make somebody else wrong, not trying to make you right, understanding you've been the victim and the abuser, knowing that you have been right and wrong, that you've played all different facets of this. So what I've been doing is just silently being in my own process, really understanding what it means to stay in my own lane. When I clear this from within me, it's been given me the space in my body to feel what is right and wrong, and to be simply guided by the question, what would love do? What would love do? You know, do I need to reply to this text message right now? No. Is that about the other person? No. It's about me. Me respecting me. Me honoring me. Do I need to go to a specific place? No. Do I need to be here now? Yes. I don't know what it looks like. It looks like different things to different people. I'm just taking it moment by moment, truth be told. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm winging it. But my point is, it took me to a place where I'm like, holy shit balls. This is huge. And I mean, it took, I like I said, I'm 0 pointing and I've come to this place via many steps, but I didn't realize how deeply ingrained it was. I didn't have a clue. Do you know what that means equally? Not one person in this world would ever stand a chance with me experiencing the things that I've just described, because guess who was standing guard, making sure nothing came through to get near this heart of mine? Me.
Right.
It's crazy. And the thing is, the scary thing is, it's in all of us, because as children, we learned what we lived. As adults, we learn what we live. Society is in on us in such a big way right now. The people who influence us around us, and it's everywhere. And we react more than we respond, because we're reacting from that guarded place that's loaded without us even realizing a second of it. And you know what the even more trippiest thing is that I've realized? Now that I've silenced this and shut this and opened this, my body's coming online. And I'm honoring the shit out of that. If this body of mine says, yeah, we do this, I go, let's go all in. If it goes, no, stand down, I'm out. Because I trust me. We have an innate wisdom within each and every one of us. No one person is better than the other. No one person knows more than the other. The only job, I think, this is my perspective, that we need to do is to take ownership, accountability, and full responsibility of ourselves, clear from within us, because what's out there is a projection of what's running in here. Yeah. And after that happens, you clear enough space to bring the body's intelligence back online, so that it can take in the information, it can process the information, it can emit the information from a centered, balanced, loving space where you honor yourself, respect yourself, from a place of, what would love do, like I said, and bring everything online, the mind, body, and the spirit. That's just for me, for what I want to achieve, because I realized from doing those lists that I second guessed everything. When my body was screaming at me, please do not do this shit, it was so suppressed with all of this stuff that I couldn't feel it. I couldn't hear it. And then it took me even deeper into shit that I'm still a knot that I managed to scramble out of. Sorry, my throat's gone again. That's pretty much kind of where I've been over the last couple of days. So it's been a wild ride. And I know, like I said in the beginning, this isn't just me.
Yeah.
There's many people experiencing the same thing. I've got friends experiencing it, my own immediate family members experiencing it, and just wanting the space to be with it is nearly like blasphemy, because people want you to meet them when the shit goes down. They want you to meet them because they need you to meet them for them. Right. And I witnessed it with a very close family member who felt bad for not engaging with somebody when they clearly just needed a little bit of space to be with, having been on the receiving end of the projections of somebody that they love immensely, and feeling guilty that they just wanted to be.
Yeah. I think that a lot comes up for with that sharing. And I think first is when we start to realize that our programming and our conditioning held a very divine purpose. So even as we start, I would call it like coming back online. as we start coming back online, there's actually no sense of urgency or sense of affliction. There's a deep inner knowing that starts to emerge, that understands that everything moves into the physical when it's meant to. And there's a very specific process, a divine process that's orchestrated in ways that the thing that is subjugated to time, which would be the mind and the pain, doesn't understand. So, right, when we start to expand, we start to experience eternity. What's eternity? It's we start to transcend thought and pain, which is future and past. And so the eternal aspect, the timeless aspect, starts to move forward. Thought and emotion finds equilibrium. And in that balance, and you referenced this a few minutes ago, in that balance, we become intuitively guided again. So something I've been exploring, and I explored this with one of my friends this morning, is even the word boundaries. There's a vibrational frequency that denotes separation in the word boundary, right? Like,
yeah.
What actually I've been experiencing in the last few days is, as the spirit starts to experience itself back in the soul and the heart opens because it's no longer blocked by pain, the soul brings the spirit housed in the soul projected through the heart. And when you have that experience, there's actually no thought behind how you meet experience. There's only feeling. So it's not, and Morgan Lee said this beautifully to me a couple weeks ago on a call, there's no such thing as protection anymore. Right? Protection denotes that we don't understand that we've called everything into experience, which means unconsciously the unconscious state is perceiving reality veiled and doesn't understand what it's experiencing fully. But when we start to experience feeling, and feeling is the experience of the spirit, we move into a space that we see cannot house our can't house our energy. So it's, you start to just feel. You'll feel if you're in an experience that's out of alignment, and it will actually, there will be a physical experience. You'll start feeling your life force. The prana will just start draining. Right? The other day I was on the phone with you and Morgan for 3 hours. I've never been on the phone that long in my life. Like, so now I'm having these conversations, but what we feel is just like, we never get tired of the sunshine. We're really moving into a vibrational reality, right? Where we just have an inner knowing, and our body and our mind supports that inner knowing. When you're in the presence of something that nourishes you or sustains you, your spirit feels like that. When you're in the presence of something that starts draining your prana and you move into contraction, your spirit feels that. And thoughts actually, because we're transcending thought. This is the death of belief, the old paradigm, and the age of knowing. So we're moving into a state where everything is feeling. I'm having the experience where I can interpret the energy coming at me before words and experience manifest. So stagnant thought, conditioned experiences, and emotional trauma, as it's being diluted, as it's dissolving, it's no longer experiencing the other human, right? Instead, we're just experiencing feeling. And when you experience that feeling, there's no separation in it. It's really just a physical thing where, your body can't support the energy anymore because as we move into the new paradigm, we're no longer able to suppress, because the spirit can't breathe in a body that's suppressed a range of vibrational frequency that we call emotion and thought. So once you start to experience the world from the optics of the spirit, really it's all a knowing, a deep inner knowing. And what I'm seeing right now in my own experience and outer experiences is this: there's a lot of projection right now, a lot of storylines. And that's why even in the poem, when the poem wrote, my stories became a ladder. That line manifested because if you're lost in stories, or if you feel like you need another human to affirm or validate your existence, you're not experiencing your spirit. Your pain's formulating those thoughts.
Yep.
And so for me, what I see is a lot of the world and a lot of people, there's a lot of projection, but that's not to be judged, because if there's a certain ratio of density, which would just be if someone's stuck in a lot of pain and a lot of thought, they have to have those outer experiences to kind of like chisel away.
Yeah.
But what we're also now experiencing is some forms have been in it long enough that enough of that density has been transmuted, that we've reached a state where some forms are doing most of this in their dream state, and or having just a lot fewer experiences with other forms in the waking state. So maybe if you saw me 5 years ago, I'm being triggered 100 times a day. It was the guy at the gas station, and it was the girl bagging my groceries, and it was my uncle who said this, and it was my aunt who said that, right? To where, as enough energy's been transformed, we're moving into an experience where Israel and I've been talking about this a lot, to just where when awareness has opened enough, you stay in it. You stay in it and just feel. And you know that at any point, if you start to project, it's the other, or if you start to project a storyline and perpetuate through thinking, you're literally creating a karmic loop, right? Where you're going to be regurgitating and recycling your own pain. You're literally holding yourself back. So I guess for me right now, what I've really been doing, because some core wounds have been touched, is recognizing that if anything enters my physical reality, it was called by me, period. Nobody else. There's not a mistake. It isn't like, how is this happening? I'm calling this. It's here. So I need to see it, and I need to ask, now what am I meant to do? Every single human on earth right now is uncovering their voice.
Yeah.
And in different ways, and uncovering the power of the heart. So it's meeting that, understanding it, honoring it, and knowing that at any point, if we fall into story, or if we separate ourselves from another human being, then we just have some more work to do, and that's okay, because that's what we're meant to do. And this is hard, and it's painful, and it's beautiful, but it's scary, and at times it's dark, and we just have to be grateful that we have each other, and we're able to move into this more deeply,
Yeah. This is just my perspective, and again, what I'm witnessing is people either being on the receiving end of the projection of another, or being the person projecting with the need, like you said, for validation from another, validation from an experience, validation, because their stuff is quite literally up to be loved. to the people who are looking outside of themselves and, excuse me, insisting that another is wrong. You're wrong. I'm right. The same energy of the need to turn in is there to do something with that to the person who's being projected at. It's the same thing. It's the call for the action step, as you just put, to say, I have called this into my experience. Now, what am I going to do with this? Mm-hmm. Some people are becoming quiet. Some people are finding their voice and speaking up.
Yeah. Yes.
And that is the form of nourishment that they need in that moment. To the other side of that, spectrum, where people are being left to deal with their stuff, because, as you said, now, how do I say this without going on a rant? I will read something and I will feel what's behind it, and that's what leads me now.
Yes.
All right. Okay, I tamed the rant.
Can I say something to what you just said that really speaks to me? You said some people are learning that they have to go quiet. Maybe those are people who abused their throat chakras. And when we right, some people, if you think you're speaking your truth, but it's all projection, and if it's all impulsive, then you're still not accessing the power, because this center in its purest form is meant to be taken by the eternal. And so then you said, and some of us are learning to speak up. And I know for me, how I lost access to my throat center was being subservient, submissive, and just taking everything because I wanted to experience love. And I thought if whenever I spoke up, it wouldn't be met and I would no longer be loved. Right? That was the story.
Yeah, so many of us.
So many
I better not say that. I better not say that, or else you will abandon me. You will reject me. You will leave. I've lived it.
Yeah. And what I feel happening for myself is this. Some of the people that are learning to go like this and go silent, that's how their light is expanding right now. And some of us are breaking through and our light's expanding because for the first time we're saying things we never said.
Like no.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Saying no. And other people are, I think what they're coming to understand is that, well, it's not other, because this is, in my experience with all my exchanges, is if I'm not a pure conduit for just the source of creation and the other isn't, then it's a bilateral agreement. Both of us called each other in to illuminate an aspect within each of ourselves that isn't allowing both of us to access or harness our full power potential, which is eternal. And so for me, this has just been my experience lately, is a lot of grace and compassion is coming with all of these messengers for me. I'm like, oh my God, like whether, and I can't speak for anybody, but I've had a lot. And because that's what we're all doing. We're all waking each other up. I'm being woken up by countless forms right now. I'm part of helping wake countless forms up, right? Like it's happening both ways. But what I see in myself is a deep, 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 deep gratitude. Because if something's showing up in my reality, whether it understands it or not, and it can or it can't, that's not for me to even analyze. But what it's doing, if it shows up in my reality, is it's bearing the gift of power that I have lost.
Wow. Yeah.
And so for me, it's about seeing my face appear on everything that comes into my reality. and knowing that in its deepest form, we haven't just been everything, we're everything right now.
Yeah.
Everything. So this isn't, so sometimes if we're speaking about our experiences, sometimes unconsciously our pain is still taking our mind and not realizing like I'm you right now. I'm Morgan Lee, I'm Israel, I'm Todd, I'm every politician that exists right now. I'm every plant, I'm every stone, I'm every creature right now. And if my spirit's activated, I feel that. If my spirit isn't activated, then conceptually I can read about that, but I'm not feeling the inextricable connection of what it means to be activated and awake and in the remembrance flow, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that we're remembering who we are. And everything is truly a gift. And if something in your reality, if a person or an experience still isn't a gift, therein lies your work. If something in your reality still isn't you, therein lies your work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I
Can you
think
say that another way? Can you
yeah,
just say what you just said another way?
yeah. Let me see. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I heard you. I want everybody to really get that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like if you still have a storyline playing out, if there's still I was abandoned, my father left me, the world didn't like me because I was gay, like Marina and I talk about it, that unconscious, that victim consciousness, if it's still there, then you still aren't pulling the pearl out of the experience or the pearl out of the person that you've called into your reality. And so for me, what I've been experiencing lately is understanding that pain itself, it wants to stay alive.
Fights too.
It's fighting with everything it has inside of us, right?
I experienced it earlier on.
It's
I witnessed it. Yeah.
it has its hands around our heart. Pain, literally. Like if you've got a visual, this is what our pain's doing to our heart, and our heart right now is trying to expand and push the pain off.
Yeah.
So if we stay in it, our power lies in feeling it.
Yes.
In denying the feeling, right, is where we've been held prisoner. And so I think like when I look at everything outside of me and start realizing that not everything's supposed to reach pure consciousness.
No.
And
That's okay.
and that's and again, we don't want to create a hierarchical conceptual thought around that. So some forms, like a lot of the forms that came into the physical reality vibrating at a deeper frequency, we could call them empaths, and there's a lot of other language people use for this. But the reason a lot of these forms were surrounded with challenging circumstances is because they were called in to anchor a new paradigm. So their family circumstances, whether they or what they experienced at grade school, not having friends, whatever their circumstances were, they were meant to experience these experiences because they were meant to wake up so they could anchor that frequency in. Now, nothing's actually special about or Marina. I heard Marina in my head just now. Everything's actually special about them, but everything's equally special about everything that challenged them.
Yes.
So it's not, oh, these souls came in and they're more powerful or beautiful and they're anchoring in the new world and all those dark souls are going to fall away. No. It's everything special. These souls came in to anchor in a new vibrational frequency, and their outer karmic experience within familial archetypes, societal conditioning, generational karma, whatever you want to call it, all of these energies were meant to break that heart open to anchor in the frequency. So that's how everything's being orchestrated. And let's call the conductor the universe or eternity. Eternity is using every form. Every form is touching everything in this world to manifest the experience of love in the physical, the timeless in time. And so for me, as that understanding starts to sprout from my heart, every time I fall out of that and thoughts start coming in or separation starts to enter, I realize it's time for me to go silent, not speak, go into my room. I need to feel a movement of pain. I either need to cry, I need to hurt, I need to say something I haven't said out loud, right? And with that, what starts to happen, and I would love to hear your experience about this. This is just me speaking about my experience. You start to see every word before it leaves your mouth. You start to hear every thought, and as it formulates, your spirit says, do I want this thought to complete and turn into an action, or do I want to catch this thought and love it into its dissolvement? What we start to do intuitively is we analyze every text message before we release it, every word spoken, every post. If we're going to write to someone and tell them we love them, we say, am I telling my mom I love her because I just need her to feel it in this moment? I want her to know. Or am I telling her because I'm experiencing a state of lack and unconsciously I'm creating an expectation where if she doesn't meet my lack, I unconsciously want a trigger point, right? We start to say, why am I writing? Why am I speaking? Why am I saying that? Why am I doing this? Right? The birth of intention, the birth of communing with intention. And what we're going to start to find is more often than not, we're going to move into a deep state of silence. And more often than not, my voice only wants to speak, typically through poetry these days. And then everything becomes poetry. The same voice that writes the poetry now wants to commune in conversation with you in this moment. And it feels substantial. So if I fall out of this movement and thought and pain resurface, I now have enough awareness to not go create with it or create storylines, but to honor that deep pain that has been denied, wants to be felt. And at this point, I don't really need to do it with anybody else. Unless someone enters, then I'm meant to honor that. And I have to find resolution because it came in organically, right?
Yeah. Someone I love deeply shared an audiobook with me called The Man on the Mountaintop. And the message, the main thing from that was that all people, everyone is that you meet is holy. And like, I mean, you've covered all avenues there, that they are a gift to you always. They are you always. If you judge somebody and see nothing but love, you're seeing a reflection of yourself. If you see somebody and you judge the shit out of them and the things that are active within you and they actively trigger you, you're looking at yourself.
Yeah.
And so many of us have to, we anesthetize our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings to the point where it nearly, unfortunately, takes someone shaking the shit out of you or your world being like shook like this. I mean, that's what happened to me a few years back in the middle of all of my own personal things here. What I'm trying to say is it doesn't need to get to a point where there has to be a takedown. If we would only neutralize whatever is going on within ourselves, so that there is no possibility for the experience to play out. I know we keep pulling her in. We're talking about Morgan, and I've got no hair tie thingies, but I'm just going to use it. She uses this example. You've got like a hair tie like this,
Yes.
and I'm pulling it from this side because I'm right, and the other person's pulling it from this side. I'm right, and then what happens when we just drop it and own our shit, own your shit? We just drop it. The other person is left with themselves, and it's only that if you, from a place where you can feel, like you said, feel all the way through this shit, that you can meet yourself, because it has to be about you, not them.
Yeah.
It can't be.
You just said something really important, and I know I said this earlier, but this, I feel, is what's most important, and this is what I'm feeling in the collective and in myself, is sometimes we think, right? And if an experience plays out where someone comes into your field and you're exchanging and you're meant to trigger each other, honor it, like, and see if that can find balance, right? But if you think about it, there's countless and ageless stories of people who never got to speak to someone who hurt them.
Yeah.
Right? My beautiful cousins, their mother died. One of them was 4 and the other one was 3 weeks. 3 weeks after she gave birth, right? She died. So he was only 3 weeks old. Never got to experience his mom like fully. And I remember as a young child, I thought, oh my gosh, there's so many questions left unanswered. So many feelings that will never find resolution. I used to think that when I was little. But what's fascinating is as we start to expand, especially when we start having a true relationship with how we clear, and how there's this element of grace that we don't understand until we start experiencing it, that we see there's an orchestration that is evolved out of thought, outside of thought, is that we really don't. My father was abandoned by his father. Israel was abandoned by his father. Neither of them got to have conversations with their fathers. Yet I see them moving through major healing, and I'm watching their hearts open from those specific experiences. The truth is that, like I said, if experiences come in, honor them. That's the way that they want to find equilibrium. But what we really have to do is just feel. Because in the old paradigm, the reason we experienced duality is because we suppressed. When you suppress this experience and that experience and this experience and that experience, now all of those experiences live inside of you. And at any given time, when those dormant energies become active, this experience is creating thought and perceiving reality. Now this one, now this one, now this one, right? When we just feel and no longer suppress, all of those experiences start to die. And that's when the spirit is able to move in the body. The spirit is vibrating outside of time and space. It is the most prolific. It is where death and birth are become one. It is where everything became manifest. It is the antecedent of thought, physical form, earth, universe, multiverse, right? When we fall into that still point can only enter the physical when the dense aspects of pain have been completely transfigured. So when you say feel, like, and I want to say, it sounds simple, like just feel, but anyone who feels pain knows it is at times a horrific experience. Feeling the emptiness, the longing, the aloneness, the rejection, the abandonment, how many times we abandoned ourselves. Having to feel all of that is painful. So if we feel it, that alone is leading us to our liberation. I think
Yeah.
sometimes we think we have to go have an experience with everything outside of us, and sometimes maybe you are meant to, and honor that, absolutely honor that. And that's okay. And that's beautiful. But also understand there's times that you are the very creator of all that is inside of you. Nothing else exists but you. And so when honoring your deepest state and falling into that dimension, you have the power to dissolve this inner world, which will completely dissolve the outer world. And while other people are perceiving chaos, all you see is the invisible hand of God creating everything, moving out of everything, touching everything, breathing in everything, right?
Yeah.
Feel. That's what we're afraid to do. And that's why I would, especially through this passage, this has been my experience. I see a lot of chaos happening right now. Don't be afraid. The next 2 weeks, we're moving through this major passage where our deepest core wounds are being touched. People are going to come, there's going to be a lot of people coming up from our past, aunts, uncles, cousins, old friends. Like, be in your center and know that if you're able to honor this passage, move into stillness, go on walks, be by yourself, cry, feel, explore every person that comes to your mind's eye or to your heart, explore it. Say, I now choose to feel what I've denied. Feel it. And when you start to feel it, you'll cry. And when you cry, that energy is being transfigured and it's coming out of your eyes and it's leaving your physical body. It's leaving your cells.
You were with me and Martin in the conversation we had last week, and Martin was very beautifully channeling that energy, and I had my own very deep inner experience where I've shared this with you. I heard the words. I could feel like I heard the words "feel" as if somebody was literally shouting this into my face. Feel. And I explained this to you. I was like, as if my body was just going, ah, right? But it was like telling me to feel. And I'm like, I can't hold this. I'm like, fuck, I can't do this. And it was like going all the way through me. And at the point where I was like about to go, I can't, I need to stop feeling like this. I heard the words again, like on a megaphone, hold, hold. And I'm like, ah, right, literally, this is all very internal. I could, it was as if I was like screaming, like, ah. And then just as I was like, I went all the way through the eye of the needle. And then I literally, just as my whole body's about to like just combust from trying to hold the capacity. It was hold the capacity to feel. It wasn't hold on to all your shit. It was feel, hold steady, feel. And then all I could it was just like, boom, anchor. And I'm like, oh. Now, to you guys, I'm sitting there like this. Inside, I'm like, and I woke up the next morning. My throat was killing me as if I'd been here going, ah, right? That's how powerful we are, all of us. I'm not saying I'm so special over here. I'm like, no. And what that actually did for me, that was on Thursday night. Friday morning, I got slam dunked. And all I could remember was feel, hold, anchor. And what anchor meant was let it permeate your existence, your very being. Let it wash all the way through you. Let it have its way with you. Cry. Do not anesthetize this with anyone or anything or any substance. If you have to cry, cry. If you have to sit on the sofa with popcorn, do that. If you need to get into nature, it didn't matter. Whatever, it was asking a very individual thing of us. And it was just saying anchor, as in, as I was in the container of hold, feeling. Oh my God, my heart smashed into a million pieces. I swear to God. Like I said in the very beginning of this, I wasn't just feeling the experience that had literally just happened to me. I was feeling the grief of my life. I was feeling the grief of my ancestors. I was feeling the grief of everyone and everything. It nearly killed me. I swear to God, I don't know how I'm still breathing. But what I understood was when I went all the way through it, I witnessed. It was like, your mind, the mind came in and went, like the stuff of, oh yeah, you're not worthy of love. Yeah, you're right. Love always does leave. You're right. Or whatever the story was. And all I was told to do was just hold in the container and anchor. What I meant by anchor was when you come through it, you are not your mind. You are not your thoughts. You are not your beliefs. You are not your experiences. You just am. You just are. I am. That's what I kept hearing. I am. And just anchor that. And then everything just settled. And I just want to finish up on one thing, because you and I have been talking for like 90 minutes and I didn't even realize. I thought it was like 10 minutes. I just start listening to the audiobook and I'm like, what? How did I not hear this before? The Teaching of the Law of One. And what I heard, when I jumped out of the shower getting ready, I heard these words, and I'm going to wrap this up on this for me anyway. And I heard them say, when we neutralize, when we go to that 0 point, when we drop the need to do anything or be anything outside of ourselves other than just be, polarities are harmonized, complexities are simplified, and paradoxes have their solution. And in order to access that, you go to a place of neutrality, which has been what we've just discussed in the whole glorious conversation. Is there anything you'd like to wrap up with?
I think that's beautiful and it resonates deeply. And I just want to say that I love you.
I love you.
I'm really grateful for all that you're doing for all of us, for yourself, which then helps all of us. And you've been one of the greatest blessings in my reality. And then as for just the conversation and what you just shared, absolutely. I think that we're moving from fear to love, and it becomes simplified. The less fear we have inside of us, the more we're experiencing love now.
Yes.
And I'll end with that quote again, because this quote is my roadmap. The ability to observe without evaluating,
yes,
is the highest form of intelligence. What that quote means to me is evaluation is thought. We're bringing in the thinking mind. But observation and just seeing through the eyes of the timeless. And like Gabriella put so beautifully, watching this eternal movement. Just this is a movement. And watching that each form is experiencing a lot right now. And the amount of compassion we hold for ourselves is the amount of compassion we're going to be able to offer out to the external. And the amount we judge ourselves is the amount we're judging the external. And just remembering that judgment comes from pain and compassion comes from the spirit. So just becoming really aware. It's a really beautiful practice. Am I judging or am I just observing? If I'm judging myself, and I need to move inside of myself, and something needs to be confronted, and it needs to be moved, and it needs to be felt. And so just a powerful, beautiful passage we're in. The eclipse, I mentioned this earlier, is our core wounds are being touched. Honor yourselves deeply. Let's honor ourselves deeply. And let's remember that ultimately we are moving into a state of liberation, and knowing that soon the eyes of love are going to be taking us. So
I'm
I
going to
love
jump, I'm going to jump back on that and drop it then. It's the core wounds are being touched, magnified, then amplified for you.
Yes.
For you.
For you.
Lean in. And that's me. Thank you
That's
so
me.
much for doing this. It's been a pleasure. I love you.
I love you.
And thanks to everybody who joined us in the comments. I've kept my focus here because I can't, but I appreciate each and every one, and I will have a peek later. So thank you. Until next time.
Love you.
Love you lots. Bye-bye.